The video that I'm going to share with you today involves making a slab mug, and this mug will be a cylinder with a circle bottom and a handle. So I'm just started by making my template, and you can take a piece of white or any color cardboard that you have, or tag board, or just regular paper, and decide what size mug you want to make. This one is 10 inches long, so it's going to be 10 inches around and then 5 inches tall, so that when I put my template together, it will show me about the size that the mug will end up being. Now remember, you will have up to about a 10% shrinkage when the clay is fired. And we are making our mugs with clay that will go into the kiln, because then we will glaze them and fire them a second time, and then they will be able to hold liquid. So I want to make sure that I roll out a slab large enough to fit my template, and also to make my circle for my bottom of my mug. So I need a little bit extra, and I don't want this to be any more than 1/4 of an inch thick, because then it will be awkward to drink out of. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this out a little more. And when you're rolling, you want to make sure that you are turning and flipping your clay every time you roll it out, because that will ensure that you are getting both directions and it's more even thickness throughout. And then the way you can find out how thick your clay is you can stick a needle tool in and then pull it out, and you can see about how thick you've rolled this. So that is about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to stay right there, close up that hole, and then go ahead and trace my rectangular piece. Put it there. And then you're going to use a needle tool. If you want to use a straight edge, that's always a great idea if you like to be really accurate. I'm going to make sure that I have a nice spot to put my circle. And you can use a circle that you maybe find at home, or I actually have some like cookie cutter circles. They're clay cutters that you can use, or you can wait until your mug is put together and then save a little piece and make the circle for the bottom. I'm going to estimate and say that I'm going to need a circle. It's about that big. I think I'm going to go with this circle since I have this size. This is a lid to a candle. You might find circles in your Tupperware drawer that you can also use. So I'm going to cut mine out at a good spot. And then what I'm going to do is take all my extra clay and then just pile it up, because I will use it for another project. So don't smush it in a ball. Just put it right on, keep the slabs together, and then you can reuse it. It'll be easy to roll without air bubbles. So now I have my 2 pieces that I'm going to use for my mug. And this is very wet, and I don't want to distort it too much. But I will sit this on a piece of newspaper and then let it get a little bit firmer. And then I'll come back and put it together after it is leather hard. Now I will want to add texture to this, but I am going to wait till it's a little bit drier. And I have this texture from a carry-out plate, disposable plate, and I'm going to press this into it. I'm going to give it a few minutes till I'm ready to do that. Texture is very important when we put it on slab, because it will take the glaze, and the glaze will move in and out of all of the bumps and the crevices and allow a lot of visual interest. So remember to add texture whenever you can, because it does add a lot to your piece, both to touch and the way it will look when it is finished. So I've got a nice, very subtle texture in here, and my clay is now leather hard. So you know when it's leather hard because it will be able to stand up on its own. But you don't want it to be so hard that it cannot become a cylinder, bend into a cylinder and crack. But it's nice because you can work without your clay falling apart. So the next thing we'll do is put this cylinder together, and then we'll add the bottom. And the thing that I like to do before I finish my piece or put them together is I like to use a piece of saran wrap. Saran wrap helps to make the edges really smooth, and it takes away all of your fingerprints. So if you want to use saran wrap, you should have some at home, plastic wrap. You can use it even to cut out your circles, trace your circles, and it gives you a nice smooth edge, a nice smooth finished edge. And you can also use the saran wrap across the top, the lip of the mug, and you can use it even after you put your mug together. But it's really nice for smoothing what will be a sharp surface after it's fired. So you can gently bend your slab, your rectangle, into a cylinder. And if you want to use your roller, you can kind of help get the particles on the inside. You can kind of help get them to move a little bit by gently reminding them that you're going to want them to become a different shape than they are now. So I'm kind of rolling it and bending it just very gently. I don't want to remove my texture. But that gives the clay a little direction, and it'll help me put my seam together. So when your clay is able to stand up, leather hard state, you're going to take, I have a serrated rib right here. You have a plastic fork in your kit. You also have a needle tool, and you're going to score the junction where you're going to put the seam together. You're going to score that, scratch it up, make it uneven. And then if you made slip, you can use slip. I'm going to just use water, and with the water, I'm creating a slip on the surface. And then I'm going to put that seam together. So there's a lot of tricks to getting a seam nice and neat. And I'm just going to press it together with my hand. And then I'll show you what tools you're going to use also. But for now, I'm going to just keep pressing it together. You can also decide to put a coil on the inside if you want to make it stay. I have a wood modeling tool that I'm going to use on the inside to take the clay and move it back and forth. So I'm joining the clay on the inside so that it will not pull apart, just gently. And this is very important to do before you put the bottom of the mug on. So the clay has to be soft enough that it's still going to be able to be moved from one side to the other. And you want to make sure that especially the bottom is put together well, the bottom and the top, so the seam does not come undone. And you may want to do a little bit of this on the outside of your mug, joining the clay. This is also a place where you can put the handle, so you really won't, it'll hide any of the marks that you make from this process. You can take a little water, smooth it over. Okay, so I think I'm going to make this the bottom, and then I'm going to take the circle that I cut out, which is a little small, but if it doesn't quite fit right, you can always take your roller and make it a little bit bigger by rolling it gently. You don't want to make it an oval or an egg shape, but you can just make it a little bit bigger. and make sure that it's going to fit perfectly on the bottom there. And I think that's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to, again, take your needle tool and go around making score marks. This will be the inside. And if you happen to be in the classroom and have access to more tools, then you can use a serrated rib, which is a really great scratch tool with the sharp spots on it. Find it to be a little bit faster. And then this is my bottom. I'm going to scratch, I score the surface of this. Take some water with my finger. And then put the bottom on. So here is where it is great to have a kitchen paddle, a spoon, a wooden spoon, because then you can just lightly tap the bottom of the circle onto your mug, and you can go around and force those particles together with the paddle. And it makes for a very neat seam, because I'm not doing a lot to it. I'm not really manipulating the clay with my fingers as much as I am with tools that keep it a little bit neater. And if you want a more rounded bottom to your mug, you can do that. You can kind of choose what you want it to look like, okay? And then what I'll do is go around here maybe with just a little bit of the wood modeling tool and just close up that seam, making it neat, making sure that it doesn't look like it's gonna separate. Okay, and then that's pretty much how you attach a seam. So we added texture and attached a seam, and in my next video, I'm going to share with you how to make a handle.